So I'd like to call Leighton and Alice up to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Everyone stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, all nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Clerk Ford, would you please help us out with the land acknowledgement?
Thank you, Madam President. Arizona is home to 22 tribal nations. Osborne School District is situated on the homelands of the Acamel, O'odham, and Peepash people. Osborne School District recognizes the original inhabitants of these lands and recognizes they still reside throughout the city of Phoenix. We recognize their wisdom, impact, and generosity towards us. Osborne School District is surrounded by the original Salt River canals that were constructed by the ancestral Sonoran people, the Huhugum. These canals created a livelihood for the people and are still in use today. We acknowledge the modern indigenous people that inhabited this area as well as their Sonoran desert ancestors, the Huhugum.
Thank you so much for that. And now we are going to be moving on to governing board member reports. And right after that, we'll get to the Encanto presentations, which we know everybody is here for. So we'll get started with board member Blink.
All right, thank you so much. And great to see so many guests here. This is really a pleasure for us, and we're excited for the program to come. A couple of updates on my side. Been able to visit some of our schools this month and participate in some really outstanding activities. First, on January 29th, participated in the 5th grade Junior Achievement BizTown interviews. This is a simulation activity that we put together for our students where they apply for jobs that reflect their real world skills and interests. They sat for interviews where they were asked very tough real life questions and had to think on the fly about behavioral interview processes. And I was so impressed. The students showed so much growth and just insight into their own skills and potential and past experiences. It was unbelievable. So I want to say thanks to Miss Casey Call for putting that together, and for our 5th graders for sitting in front of a bunch of adult strangers and being so brave to do that really important life skill. On February 4th, separately, I was able to participate in Read Aloud Day in Miss Lao Garcia's 1st grade classroom. Read one of my favorite books, which is called The Dot by Peter Reynolds. It was had amazing attention from the 1st graders. I was blown away by the classroom management from Miss Lao Garcia's 1st graders. And then she built an incredible activity around that book afterwards, which I was really impressed with. 2 other quick updates. Was able to meet with Kirsten and Storm from the OEA this past week. Took an hour and a half with me on Tuesday and just talked about what it was like being a teacher in the district, answered a ton of my questions about life in Osborne School District, and just impressed upon me how committed our teachers are and really the thoughtfulness they bring to our classrooms every day. And last update before I move on, hope everyone got a chance to see the article in the New York Times a few days ago from a columnist, Nick Kristof, called "These Red States Are the Best Hope in Schooling." And it talked about what's happening in Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana to really improve school performance in their students. Talked about things like reducing absenteeism, reading intervention, including testing and just supporting students in their reading, and then just working with teachers in terms of providing just a phenomenal education. It inspired me a lot. It reminded me a lot of the work that we're doing in this district, focusing on student achievement and providing the very best education we possibly can for our students, and just hope folks had a chance to see that article as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, board member Thompson.
All right, thank you. I was able to do some behind the scenes stuff in the past month or so. So I was able to get a tour with Mr. Garcia and Mr. Alexander on the facilities and nutrition side to really look at what is going on with our child nutrition and the facilities that they have. I was rather surprised at the lack of dry storage from a district-wide perspective, and in the central office, there is no walk-in refrigerator for bulk purchases, which was quite surprising me. So for what they're able to do, the amount of scratch cooking that they can do on sites is very impressive. So it was really good to see behind the scenes and kind of see what they were dealing with. And what they are still able to do with those limitations. So thank them for giving me the opportunity to go on the tour and see a little bit of the areas I had not seen before. So that was very interesting. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Board Member Hermes.
Good to see everybody. Love seeing my Encanto family here and as a whole Osborne family. Was able to attend just this past Friday, I think it was, the Sweetheart Dance there at Encanto, and saw a lot of Encanto Clarendon folks. Just awesome to bring the community together and just having fun. Parents meeting each other, building community, as well as this past weekend going with the Girl Scouts of Encanto and Clarendon to go get their public transit badge. Was able to lead the Girl Scouts on the light rail, showing them how to use public transportation, partnering with Valley Metro to go on a trip downtown there and back, and really had a good time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clerk Ford.
Thank you, Madam President. Firstly, I just wanted to say Happy Lunar New Year. Today is Happy Lunar New Year. And tomorrow we begin the beginning of Ramadan. So, Ramadan Mubarak to all of our friends who celebrate. Happy Lent. Today's Mardi Gras. We have the start of Lent coming up. So, happy Lent and happy Black History Month as well. Since our last board meeting, I had my first meeting with the Save Our Schools Board Alliance, Save Our Schools School Board Alliance that I am in with board member Thompson. We had our first meeting, and this is just a collective group of school board members all across Arizona who are meeting once a month to talk about all of the things education, what we can do for our districts, share good things that are happening in our districts and good advice. And so I'm really looking forward to working with Save Our Schools this year, as well as with board member Thompson. For those of you who don't know, Save Our Schools is a grassroots organization that was started several years ago by moms. They saw that this ESA voucher catastrophe was going to be a catastrophe. We are now spending over $1 billion in vouchers. 12 News just came out with an investigative report that's showing that they believe that there are upwards of 20% of all ESA purchases are fraudulent. One story was from a Gilbert family who used $11,000 of taxpayer money to buy a piano, a KitchenAid, private fitness lessons, a kayak, Chinese calligraphy lessons, and private painting lessons. And once they got reimbursed their $11,000, they re-enrolled their student in public school. That is just one example of this out of control ESA voucher scam that is being run through our Arizona legislature. And it's really time that we get a hold of this because these are our taxpayer funds. So I was really excited that Save Our Schools is going to be attempting to rein in vouchers because our legislature, it's clear that they have no interest in doing that. So please be on the lookout for the Protect Education Accountability Now Act. Save Our Schools needs to collect a little bit over 255,000 signatures to get this on the ballot in November. And vouchers hurt. Vouchers hurt Arizona students. Vouchers hurt Osborne. In Osborne, we have 181 students who live within our boundaries that are on vouchers, and 83% of them were already enrolled in private school. So we have about $1.4 million of money that Osborne is losing, and it is essentially a coupon for parents who choose private school. So if you have not linked up with Save Our Schools, they are a really great organization. They send a lot of emails letting folks know what's going on at the legislature and what we can do about it. And looking forward to the celebration of schools, which they are hosting on March 7th at the Madison Center for Fine Arts. They're going to be celebrating our public schools and all of the amazing things that our public schools do. It's also a huge fundraiser for them. They're going to be putting in a lot of legwork this election cycle. So if you see the petition, I haven't seen it circulated yet, but please sign it. And if you are able to come to the celebration of schools on March 7th, I will be there. In addition, staying civically engaged, I attended a seminar hosted by Arizona List that had Attorney General Chris Mays, and she talked about how attorney generals are fighting to save our country through the judicial process. She has sued Donald Trump 36 times and has saved Arizona $1.5 billion. I really had a great appreciation for how hard Attorney General Mays is working. Looking forward to seeing what else she can do to help Arizona. I also was part of the Clarendon Junior Achievement interviews that happened back in January. The fifth graders there are so well spoken. They have such incredible leadership. They are involved in their community. They're passionate about their schools, and that's one of my favorite events all year is getting to sit down with our fifth graders at Clarendon. I also was able to one of the amazing things that our dual language classrooms do is not only talk about and teach the Spanish language, but also celebrate in Hispanic culture and traditions. And so on El Dia de los Reyes, my son's class had a Rosca de Reyes, and he got the tiny baby Jesus. I got a picture of it. And so I messaged his teacher and I said, "Are we on the hook for tamales?" And he said, "Would you bring in tamales?" And I said, "Yes." So I was able to, on El Dia de la Candelaria, bring in tamales and atole for his class. That was really fun because I don't spend really any time in his classroom, but the students were one super excited to eat tamales because tamales are delicious, right? And it was really cool to be in his classroom in that Spanish immersion where not only am I now going to speak Spanish to the students, but they're going to hear it from me as well. So it was cool. Not only I thought it was super cool for me to be able to go and practice Spanish. So just really thank you to his teachers for entertaining that. I think it's just really awesome to be able to practice Spanish in practical applications, and then also to celebrate the traditions of our community. Really cool day. I also participated in a read aloud at Longview in Miss De La Garcia's class. Continued this, I think, is the third time I've been in her classroom, and I always bring in the Ada Twist Scientist books. We read Iggy Pecked Architect. I love that series, so I had a really great time. Love reading at Longview. And then lastly, this morning, Maddie, thank you to Maddie in the Child Nutrition Department who was able to give me a similar tour to what board member Thompson experienced as well. And the need for space in our Child Nutrition Department. We just do not have space to store the things that we need to store for our 6 schools. And just really awesome that the Child Nutrition Department is able to do so many things on such limited space. And that's all for me. Thank you.
All right, perfect. And for me, just two really quick things to report. So in January, I attended the Blue Zones class that our nutrition program puts on for the community. And so it was really great to be able to have these hands-on cooking class, talk about nutrition with anywhere from students. There was students who were present from our schools, as well as just elderly community members who just want to be involved and be part of something. And so it is a really beautiful experience. So there are 2 more Blue Zones classes coming up. So if you don't follow Nutrilicious Osborne on social media, you definitely should. So that way you find out about these classes. And then the last thing to report out, Dr. Roberta and I attended the National School Board Association Advocacy Institute in Washington, D.C. at the end of or the beginning of this month, actually. Sessions that we attended included advancing IDEA funding, a federal law school update, protecting funding, rights and realities of immigrant and newcomer students. And I will say that during that session, they talked about ensuring that school districts are letting their community know that their students are safe at the schools. And that they talked about school districts passing and letting their communities know. And so I stood up and said, well, how about policies? We should be passing policies. At Osborne we ensured we passed a policy at the beginning of last year because we wanted to ensure that you all knew that a school district can say they stand for something, but until you pass a policy, that's when you know they really stand for something. And so it was great to be able to share our policy that we wrote with other school districts from around the country so that they could see an example. And then we also, as part of the Advocacy Institute, our last day is on Capitol Hill. And so we were able to check in on Representatives Ansari, Stanton, and Grijalva, where I will share that one of Grijalva's staffer is a former Phoenix Union employee. So it's really great to have that relationship with him and to know that somebody who was a former high school teacher is currently working to ensure that good education policy is advised to Representative Grijalva, as well as she was a former school board member in the Tucson Unified School Board. And that is it for my update. And now we will be moving on to our school presentation and announcements.
All right. Good evening, President Ramos, members of the governing board, Superintendent Robert, Osborne staff, and community members. Tonight, Encanto is excited to spotlight the hard work of our dual language program and some of the efforts that we've been doing this year to strengthen our academic excellence and also our appreciation for all cultures. This spotlight will be presented by our Encanto mentor teacher, Nayeli Sanchez Hernandez. In addition, we will have a student presentation from our 21st Century Cheer Squad, and that will be led by Christina Delgado Bigley. And then finally, I am super excited to present our Encanto Love Awards for this year. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Maestra Sanchez Hernandez.
Good evening, Governing Board and Superintendent Robert. My name is Nayeli Sanchez Hernandez, and I am the first grade dual language Spanish teacher and the dual language mentor for Encanto Elementary. Here are some items I would like to highlight. We started off the school year by setting the theme for the year, which is Ser bilingüe es mi superpoder, or being bilingual is my superpower, emphasizing the importance of why our students are in the dual language program. As a dual language team, we also narrowed down events that we wanted to highlight within the school year. Here are some images of the Hispanic Heritage Walk that we did. Each classroom chose a country they wanted to highlight. They learned about it, and then we decorated doors, and then we conducted like a Hispanic Heritage Walk around the school. We also had bilingual announcements sharing important facts in both English and Spanish every morning. Here you'll see images of our Dia de Muertos celebration. Each grade level created their own ofrenda with items from the community. Families and students brought photographs, decor, and other items to remember their loved ones. As a dual team, we also created a list of professional development areas that we wanted to grow as a dual language teacher. With the help of Alexis Aguirre and Maestra Fernandez, we were able to create professional development opportunities to plan and reflect on our own practices within vocab development, Kagan and Espanol, and phonics. In the future PD, we will continue to work on phonics lessons. Two events that we're planning are Dia del Niño and of course, our dual language showcase. Thank you so much for your time.
Next, we'll bring up Christina Delgado and our cheer squad.
Should we move?
Thank you, Sam.
Make sure the green light's on. Yeah.
Perfect. Hi, everyone, and thank you for coming. I get the honor to teach cheerleading after school to first and second grade girls that signed up. We had over 50 applications. There's only one of me, so we ended up choosing about 32 girls to participate. I don't think all of them are here today, but we have 6 cheers for you today as we get started. They are each going to call them out, and I think we're going to get ready.
All right. Thank you so much to all of our Roadrunner cheer squad. Can we give them another round of applause? All right. I don't know how to beat that. But I'm super excited to present our Osborne Love Awards. We'll wait for them to get settled in and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so I am honored to recognize this year's Encanto's Love Award winners. These are some of the best in our community as voted on by their peers, and all of them were voted by multiple peers to represent our school for this year's Love Awards. Our first award, I would like to have our Joy recipient come up. We would like to recognize Dachi Regis for joy. Um, yeah, you're good. You're good. So our Love Award winner for Joy is Dachi Regis, our Strive 2 self-contained special education teacher. Dachi brings joy and positivity to Encanto every day through her calm and encouraging presence and just the magic that she creates for her students and for other staff members. She makes learning safe and fun and meaningful for her students. One peer shared, Dachi brings immense joy to her students and to our entire Encanto community. Congratulations, Dachi. We're so lucky to have you at Encanto. I think everyone has felt some of the impact from our next Encanto Love Award recipient. Christina Delgado Bigley, can you come on up?
Yeah.
So, Christina is the winner of our Love Award for Relationships. When you think of Encanto, a lot of times you think of Christina and her amazing energy and all that she does for our students, our staff, our community. She builds meaningful connections with students, families, and staff every single day. She consistently goes above and beyond to support our community. She is always proactive, trying to respond to everything that she can, and she's a vital resource for all of our families. One peer shared, Christina is the heart of our school. She is always willing to lend a hand when needed. So help me give a round of applause to Christina. All right. Next, I'd like to have Julie German join us up here. So, Julie was nominated by her peers in the area of equity. Julie supports students with care and compassion, helping remove barriers so that every child feels seen, supported, and capable of success. She is a resource instructional assistant, and she really makes all of our students feel like they can be so successful. She makes a huge difference across our entire campus. One peer shared, Julie has a natural way of removing barriers and helping children feel supported, seen, and capable. Julie, thank you so much for all that you do. All right. Next, I'd like to call up Luis Vargas. So Luis is one of our second grade teachers this year. He ventured into the realm of dual language, self-contained. Luis is in his third year here at Encanto. He went through the Arizona Teacher Residency Program at Encanto and continues to demonstrate just such strong growth. And so his peers nominated him for growth this year. He seeks feedback, participates in professional learning, and applies new strategies to support his students. One peer shared Luis is reflective, open to feedback, and intentional about refining his practice. And I couldn't agree more. Luis, thank you for everything that you do. All right. And For the Love Award of Integrity, I am honored to invite Alicia Holden up to the front. Alicia serves as our Encanto health tech. She consistently does what is right for students and supports them with compassion and professionalism every single day. She is a trusted support for students, staff, and families and handles difficult situations with patience and kindness. One peer shared, Nurse Alicia does the right thing for our students each and every day. And I couldn't agree more. Thank you so much, Alicia, for all that you do. All right, congratulations to all of our Love Award recipients, and thank you so much. That includes Encanto's presentation.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to see all of the amazing things happening, and for us to have the privilege of hearing from each school, and hearing just about the amazing staff members we have at our schools. I truly appreciate the cultural celebrations. I know personally, I did not get to build an altar for Dia de los Muertos until I was in college. So I'm really happy to see that our young students are getting to build one from a young age. Do you have any other comments before we go on recess?
I wanted to just take a moment. My son this is his last year at Encanto. You've heard me speak about this before, but when my son was in preschool, we could have gone anywhere. We decided that it was time to move out of our tiny one bedroom apartment in downtown Phoenix and land somewhere where our kid was going to go to school until high school. And I have spent 15 years in education, looked through every school district in this valley, and decided to come to Osborne. I had about a 45-minute conversation with, at that time, Felipe Carranza, who's the principal now at Solano. And we decided to move into this community because we knew that this community has incredible schools, incredible staff, um, and we wanted to be in a community school that was close to where we lived by, where we were gonna, I wasn't interested in driving my kid 45 minutes to school. I wanted him to go to a neighborhood school. And so we did that. So I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to every single adult who has loved my child for the last 5 years. Coming to Osborne was the best decision we have ever made. And I'm so thankful for all the loving, amazing adults here who have poured so much love and learning into my child. I could never repay you for your kindness and wisdom that you've bestowed upon my little one. And it's going to be very bittersweet moving to Clarendon because Encanto's a home for us. And so thank you for the bottom of my heart. Mr. Vargas was my son's kindergarten student teacher. Like, this is just so full circle. Congratulations, Mr. Vargas. I'm so excited for the incredible things that are going to continue to happen in Encanto, and we'll be moving on to Clarendon. But I just wanted to take a moment to thank all of the amazing people who have touched my child in such special ways. This kid has never said, I don't want to go to school today. Never has said that. Because he's had so many incredible, caring adults around him. Truly the best decision my family made. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Any other comments before we go on break?
Just want to second what board member Ford said. This is my, I think, 7th year as an Encanto dad. Got one more year after this. I see so many of my kids' teachers here. I see people who have helped my kids out of the car, help put bandages on their knees here for the last 7 years, and it's just been phenomenal. If anybody's listening or watching who's thinking about where to send their kids, I mean, the joy and the love and the community that is here at Encanto and at all of our Osborne schools is just really amazing and unique. And I saw it on full display most recently at the school dance, and just seeing how the kids really like each other as much as the parents, and just it really is something for all of us. And it takes a village to raise these kids, and I love being a part of this Osborne village. So thank you so much.
All right, we'll go on a 5-minute break at 6:05, and we'll come back at 6:10. Thank you, everyone.
We've had a lot of the cheerleaders already leave, and we got
call to the public, so we are going to be moving on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Can I just make one question about the consent agenda? For items K and M, for out-of-state travel, they haven't included the total cost for those. Is that something just as practice we can include in the report before we vote for future meetings?
Yes, and
I thought-
my apologies if they weren't on there.
Sorry if I
We
missed
we
it,
we,
but yeah,
we definitely try and have that as part of the agenda item. So
that would be great.
All right. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. And next item on our agenda is our board presentation. So we do have our annual technology update.
Good evening, President Ramos, governing board members, and Superintendent Robert. Every year we're doing technology presentation. I hope I can give a credit enough for my team. I know I always miss something every year, so maybe I'll miss something for sure. So this is gonna give you update of everything progress we do, the innovation, the strategic goals. I'm gonna try to make it as short as possible. Okay. Oh, all right. This is the technology department team. Is myself. Tyler Whitman is our network engineer, and he's running the show over there. And next to him is our Zachary Jensen. He's also next to him. He's a help desk and technician, so he helped answering the phone and go do the technician work too. And we have two guys, Gerardo and Jacob, also technicians. We have all kind of skills in our department, from specialist in computers, networking, and cybersecurity and everything. So we really try our best. So some of the project that we have done this last year, I didn't want to list a lot, but we have a new help desk system. We have a new automated system, which is, I'm going to explain soon about that. Um, Reprogramming the firewall, reprogramming our web filter to make it more tighter. We update the antivirus software. We also update the MFA that we use for security. We in the last year and a half, we put the new fiber, which for our old district, which gonna last us at least 50 years, and that's a big one. A brand new fiber underground. Very proud of that. We also doing Montecito remodeling with the bond, intercom, security, networking, everything for Montecito as a pilot school. Preparing for a new phone system also for this summer. We also preparing for 400 laptops for staff. We're gonna swap everything back and put them on Windows, everything on Windows 11 now, but our current laptop are passing the 5 years, and we were trying to start the rollout. We usually roll every 6 year, 5 years. That is keep the thing up to date in technology. We also gonna roll out a lot of Chromebook for all the school this summer. So we're in the process of always refreshing everything, participating in bond projects for Montecito and other school design and stuff. So first of all, we with our new system, we have the help desk system. It automate everything. It track everything. We have logs. We have inventory tracking up to date in all one package. I think what we did in this help desk is it makes us do the work more efficient. Our goal, because we lost a year before at tech, so we were short-handed. Our goal was to keep the response to the ticket below 3 hours, the average, which is very aggressive. Thank you. So here is the response. In July, we had 453 tickets. In August, 846 calls and tickets from classrooms, basically, mostly. And then we have September. You see the number of tickets up till January. The average response time between 1.4 hour to 7 in August, which was, we had some tech was sick and it was hard to catch up. But as you see, we catch up quickly and we kept it below 3 hours, even below 1 hour in 400 ticket in January. So we're doing our best to respond quickly to people who submit ticket. If you look at the below, the footnote is actually national average. Usually it takes 48 hours, the standard, to respond to a ticket. We want to be below 3 hours average. So we do it very quick. We had tickets since July, 3,081 ticket with an average of 2.25 hours. Now the closing ticket, with response to the people who call, that's quick. And then the closing that ticket is 4.4 hours average for those 3,000. The and average national for school district is 3 business days. Mm. So we're closing in the same day within half a day, while other districts close in 3 days. Even critical is 1 day. So they, it's different. We want to be the best. So I hope that give them some image of what we do. This is a new automated system. This will take all the new employees, all the new students. It automate them. It create the account for them. It set everything for them, and then the right school, whether it's students, an employee got hired at Longview, he become enter Longview, and also we changed the way the password. We use pictograph, which is easier for the young kids to sit down, start to type, just trying to remember images, which is very nice. I think it reduced the login time. Back in the before this system, the kinder used to take 20 minutes to log in. Everybody, that's instructional time. So now it's just remember like hamburger, pizza, and apple, and done. Mm-hmm. So it makes it a lot easier, and it automate everybody. There's security, and the teacher is control that the teacher already trained and they control. It takes 6 months to get that in place with training and everything. So hopefully that is great for the next 10 years. The system is great, will help us. We reprogrammed firewall. Tyler was very great in that. We tried to tighten all the security if from attack from outside. And that is a great, we did a great job on that. The web filter, we're adding more and more web filter. We even tighten more and more. We are, because what we do in Osborne is to make every student safe is number one priority for us. And then the staff. And the achievement comes later. Because if you have safe environment, you have a better achievement. So this is, and we are SIPA compliant. And right here, we also use MFA in our district, and we train people. We use a Know Before, that is system that will actually test the teachers, the staff, how to prevent phishing and watch out. So we always on top of that with individual. We do it individual training instead of group. So it takes a little more time, but I think this is better to do. And so we actually vital as a department for every entity in the district, every organization, everybody needs IT protection. And I appreciate them because they all know what to do, pretty much know that how to protect the district network. Participating in bond, we are doing our best to respond to the bond people, anything they want from remodeling the school at OMS, I mean at Montecito, and other sections of the school. We had meeting and go around the schools, make sure at least the IT section is done on whatever they are doing. Also, we're listening if they need anything from IT. Imaging laptop, we're working on imaging 400 laptop. We're buying a new software called Microsoft Intune, which we're gonna make it easier to image the 400. We used to do it a lot harder. It takes 6 months to prepare an image, and that's now it's gonna be much faster. Also, we repair Chromebook. On average, we save about 15,000 a year from repairing Chromebook, at least 40 Chromebook a month. So we work a lot on repairing. When the ticket goes down, we repair. When it goes out, we start going to school. and that's how we operate. Right here, we're working with curriculum. We're trying to do AI. AI is coming, and we have been working on what option we have. So that is, we're trying to get this AI in our district, and when a teacher use it, for now, students don't use it, but the teacher. So we are trying to find out a better way in the near future to use it everywhere. And then addressing the emergency needs. The security, I mean, like there in the picture, we are training the staff in maintenance on how to detect phishing email. So that's a group one. But I do a lot, we do a lot of individual training, and we respond to anything. I have a virus, or if there's a call, we immediately, or sometimes the engineer say, hey, get that laptop from that teacher, swap it. We'll take it and wipe it. So we are always on top of monitoring everything in the district, even laptops. Last month, we have 217,000 email, and we had legit email 160,490 email. Spam email, we had 20,746 spam in 1 month. Gray email, we have 35,000. Gray email is means like if you subscribe to New York Times and you don't care about it, but still getting email. So that's like social stuff, but it's legit, mostly legit. Malware, malicious email, there were 130 and then 34 viruses last month. So this is just a month. So we're always monitoring everything as far as security. Um, Aligning technology with curriculum, this is CURTEC, and what we bring to the classroom. This is very important committee. Teachers submit to us whether unblock website or uninstall an app or delete or block. You know, we take care of them biweekly. Abby and the whole team is there. We are all working together with Melissa and curriculum side, Colleen also. So we are as a CURTEC committee there with her team, which is data team. Um, right here, some of the upcoming project. We have a new sound system, which is storage area network system for servers. We also have a new phone system coming this summer. We have Microsoft Intune, as I said, Montecito integration. We have OMS Gymnasium. We're putting a new speaker and audio with the wireless mics. That will be nice because in the gymnasium, the sound is poor. We're putting brand new stuff over there. We also keep applying for E-rate funding. Recabling data centers, that's going to be in 2027 summer. Replacing existing copiers and printers, that's another RFP that we need hopefully this summer. New technology on the horizon, such as smart TV will roll out, power supplies, document camera, document station, all the peripherals that we need for networking. This is the new system. It's provide efficiency. When I was hired back in 20 some years ago, there were 55 servers, and now we have like one system that take care of all that in one pot. It's really easy to manage. And this one, the new phone system, hopefully this coming summer. We are selecting, and a bond project integration is that we're putting a new audio system in intercom and security and everything at Montecito. Hopefully, we'll see some of that coming out soon as a demo. Um, then also E-rate. This is in the last 21 years. What have worked on E-rate. Uh, Half of that year, I was by myself doing it, which is this is almost like full-time job, frankly, very stressful. When I found out from other district, nobody does it by themselves. The director, they have consultant. So I got helper from a consultant to from 2016 and up. But over there, I started, and as you see, in 2006, I got a $1 million for Osborne, and I was new when I was hired. There was IBM mainframe, and everything is old. Everything needs to go. When I met the previous director, and he said, I said, what needs to be done at Osborne? He said, replace everything. So I immediately jump on that and get 1 million and replace everything to Ethernet from IBM mainframe, which was my thesis in my master's. Then we moved forward, and I got all that money, hopefully, I mean, with the finance director that helped a lot, now COO, Colleen, which is very important. We got all that up to $6 million. We have in the last shaded 4 years, we got funded for 520 extra to use on telecommunication and some infrastructure. And we're planning to use them that way to end up in 2030 at almost $7 million. And project accomplishment, success, and are being all monitored. Everything I talked is daily monitored for stability and scalability. And then here is the challenges. When we do a project, we have challenges such as system integration complexity. We look at the instructional disruption. So we have to make sure when we do things, it doesn't interrupt instruction. We prioritize our user training, who needs to be training first, and then ensure system reliability. And this is how we work. We work as review the accomplishment like I'm doing now. We have meetings. We look at everything we have done and what success, what didn't succeed. And then we go move forward to future technology plan. We identify the technology key point initiative. We talk to the admin team, which is great team that help us all the time. And we bring it to the board meeting, to the board, to you guys for approval, many projects. And then next step, information detailing the action plan, execute future project, align with organizational goal. So we do all that. I hope I'm almost done. So this is it. I want to thank you very much sincerely, we appreciate your ongoing support and engagement with our technology initiative and project. And what I like about Osborne, I just want to add, is that every entity in Osborne, work for the well-being of the student first and the staff. Any entity, any department, unbelievable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And truly, that response time is truly impressive. As a former teacher,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
it would take a long time for a quick request. So I'm glad that our teachers are able to, our staff is able to have that from your department, because we know that we run on technology now, and our students need that. So
I have a couple questions for Mr. Dana. I teach at the high school level. Every school has a tech, a computer tech. How does your team function? You have less people than schools. How does that work? Are you able to solve most tech issues remotely, or do you need to send your staff to sites?
We wear hats, a lot of hats. So starting with me, I can be a tech. I go when somebody absent, then engineer or director, department needs investigation, all that, backup, restore, all that. Now there is Tyler, who's an engineer. He also can do the same. We all train to do the same if somebody is absent, except some administration, but he can do a lot. And also we have a help desk. He took on when we lost a tech. So for 2 schools, 1 tech. So we used to have 3 techs for 6 schools, and then the help desk take care of the help desk and the district office. But when we lost one, so the help desk taking Clarendon and the district office. And since Montecito is still small, it's not big enough, so we had Encanto, Longview, and Montecito 1 tech, and Solano, Onoamas 1 tech. So that's how we kind of split them in order to save the budget and then try to. I mean, we are really a skeleton at this right now, but my team is just shuffling. For example, I have a tech that is out 2 weeks, so we are covering uh, starting today. They're gonna cover, and he is in Canto Longview and Mount Cedar. So we're looking at tickets to make sure they are covered while we are still doing other projects like preparing laptops and Chromebook for summer. And that's I hope I answered your question.
And then just one last question, kind of piggybacking off what you said at the very end that everything we do here is about the well-being of students. Can you talk to our community about what protections that we have built into our systems that help protect our students who are on the internet? I know we
This
have the
is
Go Guardian app. Can you just talk about how we keep our
yeah.
kids safe on the
I,
internet?
I I don't know if I want to mention all the name of the app, but I can tell you, it's kind of funny if you. One time, my friend asked me, "What do you think about Osborne?" I said, "It's a big spaceship.
Mm,
There's all kind of department, all kind of people interacting with each other. We have organization, we have board, everybody is moving that ship. Now, we as IT, when we see a risk, we raise our shield around the spaceship to protect it. We immediately on alert. We don't make a big noise about it, but we immediately target that hit or that attack or cyber attack, and we target that immediately. We have the tools, a lot of tools to monitor. Not enough people do watch every single tool, but we do our best. We share, we work our Tyler and I and the team. We're all constantly listening. If somebody has, I have a strange thing on my laptop, we immediately take it out, or we run the tools immediately in the background and make sure it's secure, because one hit it could interrupt everybody. It's very scary world out there. And so we are working daily to monitor every day. We get up and we immediately look at everything. I hope that answer. We do have a lot of tools for students. Students are very important to us, so we monitor everything to make sure it's safe. Whatever they search, we have tools. If there is something abnormal, the teacher will get notified of that student. So she will see if there is appropriate or not. She will deal with it, and she can escalate to the school official, the principal, or psychologist, or social worker if needed. But the system that we have set up is not only for us, but also for the teacher, and the principal have tools to monitor everything student activity if they wish to do that. It's in their on their desktop too. So we have a lot of tools in Osborne to ensure that.
Madam President, Jamal, good to see you,
Thank you.
and thank you for all your hard work. Really excited about a lot of these projects, but to point out the OMS gym, I'm really excited about that,
Yes.
and especially every time I go to a talk or an assembly or something like that. Excited about the upgrades to the sound system. I think that's very much needed. Could you tell me a little bit more about that? And then another one, have you looked at the Clarendon gym sound system?
Yes.
Because I don't know if there are any plans about that one too. I think that could use some love as well.
Okay. When we get the 10 years plan, I put some amount from bond amount to the stages. And when I went to OMAS, Carol, the principal, she told me she would care about the more about the gymnasium because it needed more. So we put our effort on the gymnasium first. Will have a cabinet with audio stuff in it, and it will have two wireless mic and two wireless lavalier with specialized speaker in the ceiling that direct on the bleachers so that people can actually hear, and then to the court. So
Hmm.
that's what we're putting this coming spring break at OMS. We also I also met with Felipe at Solano and Brandon, the principal and assistant principal, and we also gonna do something about the stage. In that stage, we're gonna have the screen back, a big screen. They don't have a big screen, so they're gonna have a huge screen of 12 by 14 inch plus a backdrop projector that will not have shadow when kids are acting or doing. There's no light into them. It will be behind them. You can play forest, prairies, whatever going on, and the theme, just like a high school. So we're putting that in effort. We're trying to get it in spring break, maybe in June.
Hmm.
Also, we looked at the Encanto cafeteria
Hmm.
where we do the main meetings. I have to meet soon, hopefully, with Kim and Jeff to look if they agree with that, if they like that. So basically, I'm not doing what I want to do. I want to make sure they are okay with it because they are the principal. So Carol is okay, Felipe is okay. I'm going for it behind them.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much. Really excited, and I'm sure they'll tell you some needs. But take a look at that Clarendon gym as well.
I will.
That would
Will look into it.
go to a lot of assemblies over there as well.
Yeah. Thanks for the community for the bond. That's all. We couldn't do it without the bond. Thank you.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
We're going to move on to our administrative reports. Do we have any questions or comments?
One comment. I was really excited last month. I know we talked about a standardized template for the administrative reports that would highlight one critical aspect of student outcomes over the past month. Really appreciated the report from Solano that highlighted the math and English language arts percentages and goals there. But hopefully for next, we're probably just implementing that cycle right now, but would love to see more of that in the administrative reports moving forward.
I just want to say kudos on the attendance. I always like to look at all the reports, but especially zeroing in on the student absence report, and saw a lot of really positive reduction in absenteeism in a lot of our schools, and just shouting out Clarendon at Longview, especially, still doing really well, as well as Solano making significant growth, and a lot of our schools making growth. So just kudos to everybody who's working hard to keep our kids in school.
All right, and now we'll move on to the information updates. So first we have the working conditions survey update.
All right, so that's going to be me. Tyler, if you don't mind pulling up that presentation. So I wanted to take an opportunity to share with all of you the working conditions survey, just a little bit of information about that. You can go on ahead to the next slide. Oh, I've got the clicker. All right, now it's always which way is moving forward, which way is backwards. I pressed two buttons. I don't know which one. We'll find out next time. All right, so these are the things that I'm going to address with you tonight. Number one, where did our working conditions survey come from? It was created by someone else, so when did we take ownership of it? How have we made any changes to that survey? And some getting into the data and some highlights from the survey. So in 2010, we had a pretty significant event where we were part of the Arizona Ready for Rigor grant. This was a teacher incentive fund grant written by Arizona State University to the United States Department of Education. And they chose 10 partner districts to work with, as well as the National Institute for Excellence in Teaching. So we adopted the TAP model, we adopted the TAP rubric, and then we became part of this 5-year Ready for Rigor grant. ASU was a partner in this as well, and they put some of their statisticians to work into creating a working conditions survey, which was going to be one of the measurements of overall program performance. So there were lots of different things, from student outcomes to teacher evaluation outcomes to at the time there was all of our principals were had a 360 survey. So I was the superintendent, all of the staff, and the principal themselves. And then there was also this working conditions survey that was created. The grant ended. It was a 5-year grant, so it was from 2010 through 2015. So the Arizona Ready for Rigor grant ended in the 2014-2015 school year. But Osborne made the decision to continue lots of things that had come from that work because we saw such significant growth happen during that period. We continued to use the TAP rubric, which we still do. We continued partnering with NIET, which we still do. And we continued using the working conditions survey. Once we were outside, now within the Ready for Rigor grant, all of the administration, ASU not only created the survey, but they handled the administration of that. Once administration turned over to the district, we decided to put in a mid-year survey We kind of look at it as our dipstick, checking the oil mid-year, and then all analysis of the working conditions came internally within the district. We looked at possibly expanding. So the working condition survey, when we first started, was only done at the school sites by teachers. And it was looking at the, all of these different, I'll get into the different domains of the survey in a minute, but it was only done by teachers. So we had a feeling in terms of leadership of how school leaders were doing based on school, the teachers at the school sites. In our strategic plan, 2020 through 2025 strategic plan, there were different areas, and under the leadership strand of the strategic plan, one of our goals was to create a district-wide working conditions survey so that we were getting everyone's opinion, not just teachers' opinions, on the working conditions within the district. So in the 21-22 school year, we had a soft launch of our classified working conditions survey. And part of what we were looking at in that leadership strand of the strategic plan was not only looking at this working condition survey, but also the administrative evaluations. There was a firm teacher rubric, but we didn't have rubrics that were used for others within the district. So we overhauled how we did. We worked with NIET on adopting their principal standards rubric, and also worked with them on creating a classified directors and superintendent rubric modeled after the NIET teachers and principal standards rubrics. So the working conditions were not just looking at the performance and abilities of site leadership to impact working conditions, but all district leaders in impacting working conditions across the entire district. So we made a recent change to the survey. There are different strands: time, resources, decision-making, empowerment, leadership, professional development are the 6 domains. And we were noticing year after year after year after year that the decision-making domain had not just slightly lower scores, but significantly lower scores. And so we looked at what was impacting just that scale in and of itself. The old survey that we had very much personalized the response, whereas we wanted to have a more general response that kind of told you what life was like in the district, not just for this individual, but for all that are impacted. And I'll give you a specific example. When you're looking at the 5 other domains, they're using a Likert scale from strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. There would be statements, and do you agree with this or disagree with this? In the decision-making rubric, this is what it looked like. It said to indicate the level of staff involvement in the following areas. So one example was school improvement planning. You weren't asking a question to find out strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree. It was, is school improvement planning your primary role, or do you play a large role in it, or do you play a minimal role, or do you play no role? So it's very much about the individual level of involvement with school improvement planning, not are teachers, are staff members involved in planning. So we changed the rubric to match the same Likert scale as the other 5 domains. And so this year it looked like this: teachers participate in school improvement planning. And you get the same level of response. Another example, where am I pointing this? It worked every other time. Tyler, can you just advance me? There we go. The hiring of new staff. Instead of saying, well, that's my main role, or I was partially involved, that we wanted to know, are we doing one-on-one interviews, or are we being collaborative about this and involving staff in this? So the question changed from what was your role in this to Staff members participate in the hiring of new staff. Is that a true statement or not? Do you agree with that or disagree with that? Kind of understand why that change was made? It was really necessary because we were getting this data that was showing something very low, but I don't know that it was asking what we really wanted to know. We didn't want to know just at an individual level whether or not you did this. We want to know, does this happen as a whole within our district? And so we needed to ask the appropriate question in order to gauge that. So like I mentioned, there are 6 domains within the survey: time, resources, empowerment, decision-making, leadership, professional development. Those percentages that you see are kind of the weighting that's used in the end, not the percentage of questions that were asked, but time and resources, while they're critically important, we just put if looking at overall leadership and the impact that we as leaders can make, we want to be putting a lot more emphasis and time in making sure that we are empowering staff, that they're involved in decision making, that our leadership, that the professional development is in place for them. There's about 8 to 10 questions per domain. It's on a Likert scale. And on our mid-year survey, we made the decision, since this isn't something that's used, the final working conditions survey is part of the overall evaluation with administrators within the district. Since we're not using it for that purpose and we're just kind of getting that mid-year dipstick check, we decided to not do all 6 domains, but rather the 4 major domains on the survey. So this is the first, before I jump into this, I'm going to show you what you're going to see are certified and classified. There are 2 separate evaluations that are given out. And you're going to see results of the survey stemming back from the 21-22 school year, because that was the first year, although we have data that stems back all the way to 2010, that was the first year that we did both classified and certified. And just for relevance, rather than going back to how we were doing 15 years ago, I just gave you a look at the most recent years, and it's going to show you end of year and mid-year. So I'll give you a quick second to look at that data. At the very end is the mid-year 25-26, so what everyone just took. Am I correct on this, that this was done in December right before break? Correct? Yes, I'm getting nods from the audience. So right before winter break, we did this assessment with all staff in the district. So any immediate takeaways, just looking at the data? You haven't seen any of the questions, you don't know what went into it, but what are some immediate things that you notice?
Yeah, see the decision-making change for sure. So very eager to hear what changed between spring 24-25 to mid-year around decision-making specifically.
I mean, I see all the numbers have gone up, which is really great to see.
I mean, we see at this midpoint this year our highest numbers that we've had in, since spring of 21-22. So we're super proud of that, and the definite impact that what you concentrate on working to improve, you can, if you're measuring it, then you're able to chart those changes. Definite change in the decision making, and that's from the change in the way that it was scored with that rubric. Before, what that 42% told us, it didn't tell us if people agreed or strongly agreed with statements about decision making on campus. What it told us before was whether or not they played a primary role or a minimal role in that. So I think, and that was never clear without knowing the questions, and an assumption that they were all using the same scale. So I think, although it's still our lowest number, so we still have places to go. That this didn't just say, okay, decision making is all at the highest level. We still definitely have a way to go from where all the rest of the scores are. Just to give you a quick look at what the questions are on there. So I'm not going to read all of these out, but these are the questions by domain. So the first two are up here, decision making and empowerment. You can read what the questions are that we ask, that we're asking for that strongly agree, agree, strongly disagree, disagree.
Okay. So it's especially in the decision making, it's about participation more than it is about the assessing the quality of the decisions that are being made.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about site councils and where those exist? Is this like a leadership committee or?
Right. So site councils exist on, should exist on all campuses. And those are representative bodies involving staff, involving parents or community. The levels of involvement. I can find out rostership. If you'd like to know like how who all is involved on site councils. But those site councils are informative bodies to the leadership on campus, where important decisions about things that will impact our campus come through that site council. When I think back to some early, my principal days, we always ran our when we had more decisions to make, when we had a little bit more budget to work with in terms of Title I budgets, because right now the majority of our Title I budget is either at the district level or there are positions that exist within Title I budgets. But I had a lot more flexibility back in the day, and so I always brought my Title I budget to the site council in terms of determining how we should spend some of those dollars. To uniforms, we made decisions about, well, hey, do we want to continue with uniforms? We brought that through our site council. Those types of decisions, looking at certain professional development questions. We ran those through our site councils.
Just to make sure I understand how it works. So on the empowerment scale, our score, I don't know, I want to say it was around 80-ish somewhere. That's just taking an average of all of those questions. So you could have 100 of them be strongly agree on one, and then maybe a different one be lower, but it evens out to that 80% there. So are you able to identify, okay, this area is
yes
in particular we need to work on?
Absolutely. So I'm just giving you the overall scores, but every single one of those questions has a score. And so that's the overall score of all of the questions certified across the district with empowerment. We're at that 80%. Across the entire district, professional development. We can, that's broken down by school and it's broken down by question. This is just the district aggregate. And just to give you a look at the leadership, and I'll give you a minute to read those. These are the questions asked on leadership and professional development. And I'll send you this entire presentation too so that you can go through this. Mr. Blank, I think you had a question or? Oh, okay. You just didn't want me to move on yet.
Looking critically.
Yes.
Yeah, no questions.
So at our January admin team meeting, we took a lot of time to go through this data, and there were a few asks. Number one, I asked all of our administrators to share this information with their school or with their department. You probably saw in one of the reports from the schools, Mr. White threw all of his data right out there, for his entire community. I didn't ask for everyone to do it at that level, but I asked for sharing it at the school level we've got an admin team meeting next week. So goal number one was share your data with staff and make some explicit connections on not just the aggregate, they're sharing question by question level at their school. So make some explicit connections to the core values. And there was great news in there. So how do we share the good news of what's come out through this working conditions survey? Thinking about 2 campaigns in particular for enrollment purposes. When we've got wonderful things happening and we've got content staff members, they create content schools, right? Happy staff makes for happy kids. And also as a recruitment and retention strategy for when we're speaking with one another within the district, or when speaking to our friends that may work in another district and they're saying, it may be whatever they go on to describe, talk about, be armed with information to say, well, in Osborne, this is what it looks like. This is how folks feel. So I wanted to share some of the core value, explicit looks and connections to core values that we're able to make within our administrative team. These were some of the scores at the question level. And these are taken from the certified and classified surveys at the question level. For equity.
I had a question
Oh, yeah.
about performance evaluations.
Mhm.
Are performance evaluations scheduled, or are these like pop in? What are you doing?
Evaluations. Oh, no. They're announced evaluations. Yep. Teacher evaluations are announced because it's based on a lesson itself. Whereas with classified staff, that evaluation is reflective of the work over the year.
Thank you.
So that's integrity. We'll move on to equity.
Do you disaggregate the data? Going back to the one before, staff members feel comfortable raising issues and concerns. Do you disaggregate that data by school so you can see where there might be an issue? Okay.
Absolutely. Joy, growth, and relationships. And so when principals or directors are going to be sharing, they're going to be sharing their data. So Mr. White's sharing long view data. Mr. Garcia is sharing maintenance and transportation data with his staff and doing the same exercise. Really want people to look and recognize how our core values are showing up in these surveys. But I also wanted to share some highlights. And when I talk about having a campaign and sharing the news, I mean it for all of you, for all of us that are here, for us on our social media, for us in our using our PTOs, for any way possible on our website. How can we get out some of this great news about working conditions within the district? And I just wanted to take an opportunity to shout out every single school and every single department with just one highlight from every single school or department. So on the, Tyler, help me out. I like having the power, but sometimes it just doesn't work. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I get to the individual responses, there were 210 certified responses. So that's, one forward. There we go. So that's 6 schools with 35 different questions. So out of all those questions, out of those 210 questions, 10% of the responses came in at 100%. So, that's not just looking at the aggregate. That's looking every single school, every single question. Of the responses that were in that 90 to 99% range, 16%, 39% of the questions in the 80 to 89%. So we've got 65% of all those questions in that, when we're scoring on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in that highest quintile of scores.
What were the total number of eligible staff who could have responded?
I can give you that number. I believe
Okay, so like, what's our estimated response rate for the survey?
Yeah. No, go for it. I guess the question is more like percentage. What percent of our staff are
Rough guess. Oh wow. Okay. Yep.
it's an anonymous survey, so it's by codes, and we bring folks together. So this is done like on a Wednesday professional development day, and so when it's time to do that, the administration happens. We give people time to do it right then and there. Here at the district office, we brought folks here into this space.
Thank you for giving staff an allotted time to do these. In my own job, I get a lot of surveys, and then I get a lot of follow-up surveys where it's like, nobody responded to this. It's like, well, you didn't give us time to do it. There's no designated time to do it. So thank you for providing staff the opportunity to
Yeah,
respond.
and we'd like to have someone handle the administration of this, so it's not the person that is, just to maintain the integrity of the anonymity of the surveys, even though we do it with codes, and so it's not individual specific who answered that question. There are other things that you can do other than just providing a code. Same level of high response on the classified. Whoops. I had the power that time. Tyler advanced it, and then I advance it past him. So there are not as many questions on the classified. So when I say 6, it's not by schools. I'm talking about departments times the 22 items. So the same high level of response at that highest quintile. But then some individual shout outs. So if you can go to the next slide. I didn't just go to questions that were 100% because I could have pulled out a 100%. Like the Longview one I have up there is a 97%, but I pulled that one out because it was just really important, and it was the highest one from that score. Out of all the schools, the OMS one was the only school that was in the 90s on that. So it's not one that's at 100%, but it's significant because it was significant to them. But I'll give you a minute to read some of these highlighted certified responses.
I've been teaching for 15 years, and I've been evaluated on several different rubrics, several different performance evaluations. And I will say my time in Avondale, which uses the TAP rubric and then NEIT information, is the best evaluation tool I've ever seen. Especially this 100% teachers receive feedback that can help them improve their teaching. That's what the TAP rubric is for. It's for giving tangible feedback to teachers on how they can improve their teaching. It's not a dog and pony show that a lot of evaluations tend to be. So I really like that we use this instrument. As an educator, I loved it. I wish Phoenix Union would do something similar. But I a lot of love to TAP for that.
Yeah, and I'll jump on that. It's not just the instrument; it's how you go about using the instrument and diving in with the whole system. So when our principals have leadership meetings, they're talking about DICE, D-I-C-E. D is for data. I, inter-rater reliability. C, planning out those cluster professional development. E, evaluations. We spend time talking about this and making sure that we're doing it right and making sure, and it shows up in this, that the integrity is paramount. And so you have to put in the time to demonstrate that that integrity is important to you and that you're going to be fair about it and that you're going to sit down and take the time and offer that constructive feedback and talk about reinforcing and talk about refining. But it's not just a refinement like go and do this better. It's a conversation about, and here's a strategy that might be good at, a good way of doing that, and involving teachers through master teachers, mentor teachers in this evaluation process. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. It's a great rubric, but it's also all of the how, not just the what. And then the last slide is just some incredible positive classified responses that I wanted to share as well. a couple there that up at the top, that 92% with maintenance and transportation. Again, I said, I could have just chosen things that had 100%, but this is out of the decision-making rubric, where we have traditionally seen 20s and 30s and 40%. Having something like that where staff members are helping select materials and supplies and resources that are used at the maintenance and transportation. That's how much they're involved in that process. The question about opportunities for advancement without leaving the district. That's really critical, that we're building pathways so that people can see that there are opportunities for advancement without leaving the district. So these are, I wanted to bring this to you, number one, for you to get an understanding of the survey that's been used, but also these are real celebrations. And during this time of looking for enrollment, during this time that we're about to give out contracts, we give out contracts. We're required to all give out contracts at the same time now. It used to be that some people were giving out contracts in late January or early February or some March and April. Now everybody's giving out contracts at the same time, and people are going to be making important decisions. And so we're armed with data to have conversations about what it's like being in our schools for the adults that work here. So any questions about the mid-year survey? I'll be happy to share this presentation with you.
I don't have questions about the actual survey. I did have questions about one particular question, which goes back to that site council question. Can you provide us information on the active site councils at our schools? And if we don't have an active site council at a school, then maybe that question might need to be changed. Because if
I'll follow up with all
Okay.
principals and get back to you.
Thank you.
For sure.
So these are great results. I think definitely should be celebrated, and really high numbers. But I'm wondering, all the survey results look great, but we all know like everything's not perfect in the district. So what takeaways do you get from it to say, oh, okay, we need to work on this or we need to work on that? And
yeah, no, that's the perfect question, and I think Mr. White demonstrated that in his board report. Not only with that, what he put in that board report is how we want to have conversations. Here's what the data looks like. As you can see, he had done some analysis of that. As you can see by these scores that were here, this is what we really need to be working at. So it's not just knowing the numbers and knowing the data, but being transparent with it. And then also transparent with staff on, and here's how we want to work to make that better. Here are some things that we're going to be putting in place because you've let us know that this is an area that may not be as high. So here goes something that we want to be working on. So the intention of this is not to just collect data and have it sit somewhere, but that it becomes an active part of an ongoing conversation. It may be that you choose one of these areas that's the lowest, and that becomes like a goal that you communicate at the beginning of the year. We're really, in our working condition survey at the end of the year, we saw that these 3 questions were really stumpers for me when I looked at that. And we worked so hard to make this happen, but clearly that's not resonating. So we're going to make it our goal to work on those things actively throughout the year. And that's not just a principal conversation. That's a leadership team conversation, because this doesn't say in the leadership strand, it doesn't say the principal. It talks about leadership, and that leadership is shared among multiple people. So bringing in everyone that is involved in and impacted by this in making those changes towards, even where we've got 90%, we want to be 100%.
And I would say definitely to the community, everything, those administrative reports are on our website. And yes, Principal White, I really enjoyed reading the parts where you said, okay, just a reflection that went behind it, and I hope that all of our leaders in our district are reflecting like that, just because it is important to see celebrate definitely where we're doing amazing, but also taking time to reflect on how do we improve the lower percentages that we're definitely going to be there, because like we said, nobody's perfect. So thank you so much. Any other questions or comments? All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Robert. Now we'll move on to our next information update, which is from OEA.
Good evening, President Ramos, members of the Governing Board, and Superintendent Dr. Robert. We are happy to provide you with an OEA update since our last Governing Board meeting. During these updates, we will continue to share information related to our monthly general meetings, union activity, collected feedback we have received, as well as any pertinent information or recommendations about board agenda items. We will continue to provide an advocacy update every month, just sharing our numbers. As we get closer to the end of the school year, we'll start being a little bit more reflective before we enter into the next year. So for January, our total number of advocacy cases was 9, making our total provided support for this school year 22 cases. I'm going to turn it over to Vanessa Palma, our OEA secretary.
Our February OEA meeting was held at the district office. Members engaged in a conversation about how we can continue growing, learning, and deepening our connections with community partners to better support staff, families, and our community, including collaboration with Puente, Borderlands Resource Initiative, and Lucha. We shared resources, including the Phoenix Immigration Defense Hotline 480-506-7437, red cards outlining individual rights, and upcoming rapid response trainings while exploring coordinated food distribution efforts and Know Your Rights informational sessions.
I'll give an update on our Meet and Confer. In January, we hosted a virtual Zoom meeting to share proposed Meet and Confer policy changes discussed during the board January work study. Staff were able to ask questions and share feedback about Policy H. We look forward to meeting with Dr. Robert and Dr. Woodland on Thursday to finalize the changes and changes from the work study. I'll also give an update on board agenda recommendations and feedback. In preparation of certified teaching contracts being board approved, issued, and as we enter the hiring season, we recommend reviewing the current staff transfer policy. Professional staff assignments and transfers are referred to in Board Policy GCK and GCKR. Reviewing these policies prior to hiring season starting will ensure consistent implementation. If there are areas where practice and policy are not fully aligned, we recommend considering thoughtful amendments to clarify expectations and timelines. Taking this step now will help ensure transparency, fairness, and a smooth transition into next year while best supporting both staff and students. And with that, we'll conclude the OEA update.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have any comments or questions for OEA?
I wanted to say thank you to OEA for advocating for staff here in Osborne, in addition to your regular job that gives you a paycheck. I have been an AEA member for all 15 years of my career, and I have never needed an advocacy case until very recently, and I'm currently in the middle of one. So I just wanted to thank you. In Phoenix Union, we are blessed that we have full-time staff that work in our union, and that's all they do all day. And I know that you all have classrooms full of children all day, and this is a side thing for you. So I just wanted to say thank you for advocating for staff here. It's very difficult work that you do, but it's important work. And so, union sisters to union sisters, thank you for all you do.
And with your report, thank you so much for collaborating with organizations like Puente and Lucha. Extremely important for us to ensure that our communities are staying safe, and truly appreciate the Know Your Rights presentations. If there's anything we can do as a board to support that, I know that some of us up here have lawyer friends that are very happy and willing to come and do those presentations. So thank you. All right, and we will move on to our action items. So action item A, recommendation to approve contract language in issue 2026-27 certified teacher contracts.
Hello, that would be me. Protocol having already been established, I stand before you with the recommendation to approve our contract language as well as issuance specifically for our teacher contracts. So what you're going to see under the background is that administration is recommending the issuance for teacher contracts to be March 16th, 2026. And then you have the germane language One thing I do want to note that was brought to my attention pertains to Clause 8 throughout the teacher contracts, and it refers to results based funding and ARS 15 249.08. And the recommendation is being slightly modified to strike Clause 8 from those teacher contracts, as that is no longer germane Arizona Revised State Statute.
Perfect. Do we have a motion?
I motion to approve the contracts with the removal of Section 8 for those contracts.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? All right, hearing none, motion carries. Next item is the recommendation to approve contract language for 26-27 support professionals, classified, exempt, and administrator
I knew
contracts.
that. So let's see if you knew. Okay, so I'm back, and this is again, as you just mentioned, it's approving all the contract language for all other germane contract types. So that's inclusive of support professionals, classified exempt, as well as administrators and psychologists. That's reflective in the background language. And similar to the teacher contracts, we want to strike the language pertaining to Clause 8, as it is no longer germane on the other support professional contract type.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Do we have a motion?
Can I just ask a quick question?
Mhm.
All right, please.
Or do you want to go first, Ben?
Sure.
Okay.
Looking at the language here, we didn't get a red line copy of this. Is there any other changes to the language from last year's contract compared to this year's contract?
No, other than the years being modified from 25-26 school year to 26-27. So yes, that is the only change.
I just had a quick question. I know on the background it says this is for support professionals, therapists, social workers, RN, psychologists, classified exempt, and administrators.
Mhm.
So are these contracts going out to the social workers? I know we have a grant that we have. We'll find out about the grant in June, but the contracts are going out to. I want to make sure they're going out to everyone. To me, it's very very important that they go out to social workers as well. They have so much knowledge of our families, knowledge of our communities. I think they're pivotal in keeping our kids in school, keeping families in the community, enrollment, all of those things. I think social workers have been just wonderful, and they've built great, deep relationships at each of the schools.
I would
So,
agree with you, absolutely. However, this particular action recommendation is specifically for the contract language approval. It's not for the issuance for any of these particular contract types, which is why it was separate from the prior recommendation. And that is so that the budget committee process can move forward and identify some of those funds for all germane contract types within this second one. So, my objective would be for the next month's meeting, so the March meeting, to take place and then have a recommendation to issue these contracts. But this particular one is just for the contract language. And it is, again, to identify those specific funds that are germane to all of these particular position types.
got it. Thank you so much. I'll look for
You're
that. I
welcome.
just really would like to see us issue contracts. If we don't, you know, folks don't want to wait, and folks won't wait until
Agreed.
June. We'll
That's a
look.
great point. And just not to cut you short, but to speak to that, we don't want people to wait too long. So, whereas teachers' contracts are saying March 16th, based on when the board meeting happens and you all as our governing board members, we could say, and thank you, this is so great, this March meeting, can we issue them tomorrow? So they wouldn't be waiting more than a day or two more. It just depends on that time frame with budget committee and then that March meeting and you all taking action on that item.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Do we have a motion
So moved.
with the you have to.
Oh, as amended.
Perfect. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you so much. All right, next action item is the approval of procurement for project management services.
Good evening. So we left off last month with the district was going to be doing an internal review of our remaining bond projects to determine which of those projects we felt the district can manage internally and which projects would require external project management services. So the district has completed that review. In your packet, there's provided a list of that breakdown that we've identified. And in that, we've reached out and looked at availability of our previous project management um, firm team that had assisted in the previous bond program, our $50 million bond program, and that's Facility Management Group. And we are we are grateful FMG has capacity to come on and support and manage these projects based on that list of identified external projects. And in addition to that, we're for kind of speed and timeliness of this transition period, we're recommending utilizing the co-op contract procurement method versus the district reissuing an RFP and going through like an 8-week award process. And we feel that FMG is also going to provide a very smooth transition for us as FMG was involved and helped facilitate our capital needs committee that went through that work and identified the projects, the majority of the projects that are in our current bond program that are upcoming. They have intimate knowledge of those projects already.
Okay, any questions?
I just want to be clear, the FMG is taking over from on this scope for these items. This was a task previously done by H2. Okay, just want to make sure I'm aligning. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
And with that, Member Hermes, all of the projects that were bond projects were under previous project management. We've been doing that analysis since over the past month or so, and looking at which projects would be district managed projects. So if you kind of go into that listing there, there's a whole page of projects that would be FMG managed projects. The second page shows you projects that would be district managed projects. So FMG, as project manager, would only be working on that first page listing. But yes, these were both pages worth were previously done by one management company. Some of these are going to be able to be done internally.
A couple of questions as well. So, sorry, I'm new to this a little bit. Can you explain the role of the project manager specifically? Are they selecting subcontractors? Are they fully managing that? Like, what does that look like specifically for that role?
So yes and no. They're not. It's like a team effort. The projects that are CMAR procurement method, the awarded CMAR contractor is then determining subcontractors on those projects through their process, which they shared with us when we were making those selections for CMAR, what their subcontractor selection process would be, which was part of one of many evaluation factors in selecting CMAR. Quite a few of the projects, the ones that are not specifically identified as construction manager at risk on that FMG project, we anticipate some of those might be JOC or job order contract or vendor direct. We go vendor direct, shop it through a co-op. Some of them, particularly like the roofing group there, that we're gonna pursue SFD funding for that first before utilizing bond funding if possible. And so they all kind of go through a different process of sub-selection. As far as overall project management services, there's a wide range of things that they're doing. So one, they're doing the budget planning for the entire $100 million bond program. So looking at, okay, here's our budget per project. As we're issuing those contracts, where do we have budgetary savings, making sure that those contracts, they're vetting those contracts to make sure that the language is correct, fees being billed as invoices are coming in from architect, from CMAR, that all of that is correct based on performance work done up through that time. They're also at all of those like OAC meetings, weekly meetings with the contractor, the CMARs, making sure, okay, they're basically hired to help be that owner representative at all of those construction related meetings that district staff cannot be at or is not necessarily our expertise to be able to be alone in those meetings and speak to. So there's a lot of other services that they're doing aside from budgeting, invoice review, contract review, but they're really helping to manage the contractors that we've selected, and making sure pacing, timing is a big piece of that. We have project timelines. We want to make sure this is done by this time, and really backwards mapping when we want to have something completed, and then when we need to then map all that backwards.
Okay.
And if it'll help you too, I can share with you the language from our original RFQ so that you can see what all the project management services, what we were looking for.
That would be helpful. And I think you also mentioned that we're not going out for a full procurement for this service. Is that right?
The procurement has already been done through this co-op contract. So when we utilize cooperative contracts as a procurement method, another agency that we are a member of has already done the formalized procurement. So they've already received multiple solicitations, gone through an evaluation criteria, looked at references, and so we're able to piggyback or utilize these already awarded contracts that already went through formal procurement. We still have to do due diligence on that procurement to make sure it hits all the compliance pieces. And so that's what our team of business services has done. We've looked at this contract, made sure that it has all those compliance pieces, but our recommendation is to utilize the one GPA co-op contract that is already awarded to FMG.
Got it. And you mentioned that FMG has been very closely familiar with these projects in the past and has worked with us before. Did we evaluate any other potential contractors or compared price for that service? Just want to make sure for taxpayers and for the community that we're obviously getting the services we need with someone who's familiar, but also getting the best price that we can for the services.
Yeah. So our first step was to go back to when we had originally put out the our own solicitation. So we had procured originally project management services through a district awarded RFP process. We had 3 responses to that RFP originally. And so that was our first step, was to go back and say, okay, of the other 2 responses that we had, who do we want to reach out to first? One, based on how they had originally scored with us, but then also that previous history came into play. Knowing that anytime there's a transition, we want to make sure that it's as smooth and less disruptive as possible, especially to that pacing and that timeliness of services and those projects seeing through to completion. So that was, we started with those 2 previous responses, and we reached out directly to FMG first because of that prior history. Going with the other company, we had no previous project management history with them, and so it would have been bringing in something completely unknown to us, was why we went that way.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now, do we have a motion for action item C?
Move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Hearing none, the motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is the approval of Child Nutrition GMP 01 kitchen equipment early procurement.
Yes. So we're excited to bring forward this first GMP. We will have multiple phase GMPs with our district-wide child nutrition CMAR project. Both Don Brubaker of SPS Plus and Kate Gunther of Chase are here in case you have any additional questions that I'm not able to answer for you. But this is very similar to what the board will remember seeing as we phased in an early procurement for those long lead times at Montecito, particular to the central plant and the mechanical equipment there. Same process here. There's a need to go out early for early procurement of the kitchen equipment items so that they have such a significant lead time that they will be here in time for this summer's kitchen improvements at our sites. This just represents those sites that are identified there in the attachment, and you can see kind of the subtotal for each site there. Overall, it's just over 470,000 as this first GMP. This again is in phases, so our intent is to bring back at the March board meeting, then GMP2, which will be for the renovations of those kitchen and dining areas at the sites.
Do we have questions?
Just, I think this is pretty clear. I just want to double check. This is for the at the school sites, right? Okay, the existing at the school sites. Okay, got it. Thank you.
All right. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve Child Nutrition GMP01 with Chase Construction.
Do we have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All All right, hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you so much. And our last action item is the approval of the 2026 to 2031 Gifted Learner Scope and Sequence.
Abby, if you'd like to try and drive.
Gonna have the power.
Tyler's ready for you.
Good evening, President Ramos, Governing Board members, Dr. Robert. Melissa and I are off in a package deal, so we are here. You have a 17-page scope and sequence in your board packet, but we wanted to provide you with a high-level overview of what the scope and sequence contains. So here are the things that we'll be going through, starting with our mission, which I think speaks to everything that we do and certainly applies to the work we do with our gifted learners. That first bullet really speaks to, I think, a theme of our updated scope and sequence, which really connects to our goal to make sure that our gifted population is represented demographically represents all of our students. We're also guided by several different statutes, which one of them brings us here today. We are required to update and have our scope and sequence board approved every 5 years. And something that's really important is really that those services do exist within the school day. In terms of identifying our students, I will pass that to Melissa. I think I got it. Look at that.
Yeah. So I'll be speaking a little bit about our identification and our screening. And so you can see what's on the slide here, but there are multiple pathways for nomination. You can see what they are there. Teachers are probably in Osborne, even though all of those are available, teachers are probably the number one recommenders. And then also parents. We have a lot of parents contacting the school asking for their students to be recommended, their children. We also universal screen all second grade students. And so that's just something we do. And of course, we look at test scores, not only ASA students who are highly proficient, as it says in the scope and sequence, but when we run the STAR data, we also look at students who are scoring high in the percentiles for that. And then the state approved assessment, we use the cognitive abilities test. So that's the one we're using. And one change, the big change that we wanted to bring to you in the scope and sequence is currently it has the eligibility cut score at the 95th percentile. The state is 97, but districts can make your own local decisions. And so we were at the 95th. We'd like to ask to go down to the 90th percentile, and that's also in alignment with Phoenix Union scope and sequence. And so it'll be also, I think, easier for all of those records and things because we do provide that information as part of our 8th grade, as our 8th graders move into Phoenix Union. And so there wouldn't be a difference like, hey, you weren't gifted in Osborne, but now you are in Phoenix Union, or either way. And so that would be any area. The COGAT test and most state approved gifted tests would have testing like a battery in each of those areas. Yep.
Quick question on that. The gifted students have a little bit of a weighted, what
Yeah.
have a tiny bit of weighted additional funding, right? And is that and so by moving it down to 90%, does that change that? Does that give more students into that? I know it's small. No,
Yeah, that's the 97 cut. You only
that's the
get it for
97 cut.
97.
You only
And
get the
so,
weight.
yeah,
Got
we
it.
can call, we can change that to whatever, but it doesn't change the money we
Understood.
get.
Okay, thank you.
And so this is just some information. It's really cool that we can come up here and just get to do this because we can talk about some of our current cohort of gifted learners and how they're doing. So at the beginning of the year, so we did have some students, of course, leave and go to Phoenix Union or different schools. And at the beginning of the year, we had 43 students who were already identified. And of those students, looking at the data, most of them have been in the district already for at least 3 years. And so that even included our second graders who were identified last year. All of the second graders from this last year had been with us since kinder from last year. We just finished second grade testing. And then also the students who are identified, we do include English learners and also students in special education. So that's reflective of our general population. I know it's a little hard to see the end there, but I also ran the data to see like how are our students doing who were identified. So you'll see, according or with spring testing last year, 94% were proficient or highly proficient in math, 92% in ELA, and then the SGP. Remember, that's the student growth percentile. And so for the average category for Arizona, that's the range of 34 to 66. So you can see our students, not only are most of them proficient or higher, their growth is actually, even a student who's already proficient scoring around 40 is very expected. So you can see our students are even growing at technically, yeah, a higher rate than others, their academic peers. I might have some questions about that, maybe later. So some other things to consider. So national identification of intellectually gifted that usually uses like IQ. It's known to be about 2%. That's from the American Psychological Association. For students in gifted and talented programs, so it doesn't mean they're necessarily qualifying like at 95 or 97, but who are in the programs, in Arizona, it's at 4.3%. So our 43 students only had us at 1.9%. Of course, that was before any testing this year. And so with the new cut score, without even testing anybody, if we just go back to our students that we had who have taken COGAT, which most of them have because we do the second grade testing, 18 more will qualify. So our team will put together a plan to let those parents and families and students know that you now qualify. And then we also were just finishing up second grade testing and still doing some recommendations for this round. And we already have 14 newly identified if we use that cut score of the 90th percentile or higher. And so with that new total, we'd be at 3.4% and 75 students identified. And we do have a couple schools waiting to do recommendations still, so we're still in the window. So we're getting really close to that state average. And again, yeah. Anything else? Okay. Abby's gonna take the rest.
All right, so once a child is then qualifies, we have obviously many more steps to make sure that we're meeting their needs. One of those steps is to have a gifted learner plan, and we do fill that out in collaboration with families. And we really look at not only academic, but also there may be some social emotional goals that we want to address. So it's really a collaborative building process with the plan that includes some measurable strategies and then some checkpoints for monitoring progress. As Melissa said, we also have some students who also have an IEP, and so we want to make sure that we're coordinating that plan along with the IEP team and any specialists that are supporting that student.
I have a question about gifted learner plans. Yeah. So are you telling me that all of our gifted students in Osborne have a gifted learner plan?
That is in our plan. Yes, we are. Our last bullet or our last slide on this presentation is continuous improvement, and I think the process of revisiting our scope and sequence has resurfaced the commitments that we've made, and I think we do have some work to do with our schools just to make sure that we have all the plans in place and everything is as it should be.
So in reading the materials, and I've read the gifted learner plan when it was our original one. This is a promise that we make to parents who want to send their children to our schools, and this is not happening. These gifted learner plans are not happening. At least my son has been identified as gifted since preschool, and he's never had a gifted learner plan, and he's in the 3rd grade now. So I'm very hesitant to approve this if it's not something that we're actually going to do. But you're going to get there, right?
Yes. It's a commitment that we have to make. It's part of we have several checkpoints in place, and this is one that we need to recommit to. And so as always, part of our partnership is with our families, and your feedback is greatly welcomed and appreciated. And we have some work to do to make sure that we're matching our commitment that we make.
And then one thing to add to this as well, and the language in the gifted learner plan identifies twice exceptional students as students who have an IEP and are also identified as gifted. Can we also extend that to students who have 504s? There are plenty of students who have identified learning disabilities who are on 504 accommodation plans and are not on an IEP, but they are still considered twice exceptional.
Yeah, I think that's a great, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Noted.
A couple of questions as well.
Who writes these plans?
So we typically, each school has a what we call a student support team, usually consists of the principal, the coach, sometimes the psychologist. Each team looks a little bit different. Sometimes the social worker is involved, and then obviously the classroom teacher would be the primary creator of the gifted learner plan.
Okay. What is what's our main motivator for including more students in this program? Like changing the percentages that would, if I understand this correctly, that would add more students to our gifted program. Is that right? Is it just to give more access and opportunities for more students to this, or what is our main driver as to why we want to make that change?
Did you want to take that one?
Yes.
Yeah. So we were even just reading one of the books that we lean on that has a lot of evidence-based research. And if you think of the bell curve and just like how a gifted student is so drastically different than students in the general population, we're even talking like the 90th percentile, the age percentile rank on the cognitive abilities test, like that student needs accommodations or just like differentiation, like special differentiation. And so really, and again, like that, like aligning with like even Phoenix Union thinking that like that number, I think, yeah, like if we were talking dropping down to the 50th or 60th percentile just to pad the numbers, it wouldn't be appropriate. But the fact that like the 90th percent, like we have students who were in the 80s who are reading at high school level at one of our sites, and these students are in like fourth grade, but they didn't even qualify because they weren't even at the 90th. But like we have teachers at Solano having to differentiate for those students because they're reading so high above grade level, but they still didn't even qualify.
Yeah, I totally get that. And especially as this highlighted this gifted learner plan specifically, we're adding a lot of resources to these really high achieving students already. And our teacher and administrative resources are zero sum. So especially when we have kids, a huge percentage of kids who are not meeting our thresholds for reading and math, that I'm nervous about shifting our resources to the students who are already doing well. I'd love to see those resources shifted to students we need to bring up. I think I'd love to hear if there's any other thoughts on that. But as we're thinking about where we need to dedicate our intensive time, I'm thinking a lot more about the students who are not meeting expectations, who need that support and specialized plans and those types of things.
I'll jump in on that. I have my gifted endorsement. I recently got it. Students who are gifted are neurodivergent. They think differently than the vast majority of other students, and they do need specialized learning. If you go to teach a gifted student in a very just cut run of the mill way, oftentimes you're not going to reach that student because that student's brain is much different than the brain of a neurotypical student. Um, Gifted education, by and large, is give more work. And that is not what gifted education should be. Gifted education should be very strategic. It should emphasize the strength of each learner. It should be individualized. And so, while I know a lot of folks like to say, well, they're gifted, so they do really well. That's not always the reality for a lot of students. In fact, for a lot of gifted students, school is boring because they already know how to do it. And in the same sense where we are giving extra resources to students who have um, a learning disability or something and they need extra help in the classroom, our gifted learners need that as well. And I really like this idea of having a gifted learner plan because it will pinpoint the specificity of where that child is gifted. Um, Children who are gifted. My kid was doing fractions in preschool. It was crazy, but reading was really a struggle for him. So a lot of gifted learners develop asynchronously. So having something where you can identify where a strength is and where a needs improvement is important to these students because they don't always do well. By the time I get gifted students in my classroom and they're labeled gifted, a lot of times in high school, those kids are burnt out on school and they don't do very well in a traditional sit and get kind of way or being taught like everybody else. So where we do have resources for gifted education, we don't have a lot of funding for them, but it's necessary, I believe.
I guess I'll put it in simpler terms. If we approve this policy, are we dedicating more staff time to gifted students that could be dedicated to students who are not proficient? And if so, how do we justify that?
staff time, yes. And I think to Clerk Ford's point about the necessity to make sure every gifted student has a gifted learner plan, yes, I do think we have some work to do to make sure those plans are in place, that they're written in collaboration with the families. In terms of another person or an additional service, as someone pointed out, there are $0 really allotted to the state, and we, as our data is showing, with $0 and the work that the steps that we do have in place already, our gifted students are continuing to grow and actually grow at an accelerated rate. And so what we're doing is working thus far. So I'm not sure I answered your question, but we're not going to be pulling that time is needed to make sure that we're meeting the scope of this plan. But in terms of pulling that support away from other students, I would say no.
Just so I understand this individualized gifted learner plan and what that kind of looks like if we're to do it. Oh, great. All right. Maybe I should just hold my question until it's your next slide. I can. Well, I was just wondering, how I have an understanding of what an individualized education program and how that kind of comes to be, and that certainly takes time and effort, and collaboration with parents and things like that. I was just wondering if an IGLP is similar to, I don't know if we're gonna call it that, but okay, no,
You could call it a GLP, but
okay.
a lot. So the first page, a lot of it can be pre-populated with from our data wizard here in terms of pulling just the data. And I think again to Clerk Ford's point about really identifying where giftedness, where it lies within the domains, helps see that true picture. You can see. It's terrible, but there's a spot for the strategies that we want to have in place, as well as kind of checkpoints, a mid-year check of progress, and the spot for kind of oftentimes a goal around social interaction peers may be needed, and again, that's a collaborative decision that could be made with families.
Who's going to be in charge of writing these?
In our upcoming master schedule / class placement guidelines for schools, we are proposing identifying a gifted learner advisor. Typically our advisors, we have an EL advisor, we have a couple other advisory roles, and there is a bit of a stipend attached to it. It's small, $500 I think, but our hope is that we can find some money to at least have an advisor who works in collaboration with the teacher to get the plans written. So we're going to be looking for those dollars so that each school could identify an advisor at each site. Again, to kind of oversee and just make sure, have that accountability in place.
Is that person going to have a gifted endorsement?
We have a few folks.
Staff have gifted endorsements, do you know?
I think we have two.
In the
two to
entire
three.
district?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, we did a collaboration with, I think it was Project B.
Think Law, right?
It was, and
Yeah.
the project was Project B. So we, I think three teachers were able to get endorsed in the last couple of years. Yeah. So that's the plan. Thinking about just different services, different options in terms of being able to meet the goals that are set in those gifted learning plans. And this is an area that I think we can be even more creative with, that again doesn't really require time, but we think about content acceleration. We do have a couple kids that are going to OMS from 5th and 6th grade and getting their math up at OMS, which then puts them on another trajectory as they get up to Phoenix Union. One thing I can say we're doing well, there's a lot of good research around cluster grouping, and so again, in the guidance that we give to schools every year around creating class placements, we follow the cluster grouping model that really kind of provides that guidelines around making sure that students that are labeled gifted are working together so that they really have that daily access to rigorous instruction with peers that are at their same intellectual level. And so there's a whole framework for how do you've got your gifted kids, but then you've got your, kind of you group them out and then make sure you've got a fair balance within the classrooms. But there's a whole framework that we use as we're building those classrooms. And again, a lot of this work that we do in the early grades then helps them, which I can go to the next one, prepare them for their work up at Phoenix Union. And so Osborne Middle School for many, many years has had honors math, which includes pre-algebra, algebra, and then we have had a cohort of students going to Central for geometry for the last 3 or 4 years, and they do get high school credit. We've got honors ELA in grade 7 and 8. And again, those instructional practices that we really, again, that a gifted endorsement teaches, but that, all teachers need to be aware of as we're thinking about differentiating, using critical thinking, that metacognition, really being aware of how you think, that problem solving, and then the real world application. We, I think, can also get really creative with after school clubs and enrichment. I think we have Odyssey of the Mind happening. We've got robotics, and fingers crossed as we submit our 21st century grant for 5 of our schools that we'll have those dollars, to also play with so that we can offer those out of school opportunities as well, kind of to expand access. With that, I think it brings us to our commitment to continuously reviewing our trends, to making sure we do have that equitable representation, that we're continuing to monitor student achievement and progress towards those goals, and that we maintain aligned with state requirements as they do change periodically, as well as the requirements for what the scope and sequence should have based on ongoing research and updates. And just making sure that we're maintaining the commitments that we make in this scope and sequence. And with that, I think I will pause for any additional questions.
I have a lot of questions.
I think Eric was
Eric,
getting
go
ready.
ahead. Sorry, I stole it from you. Go ahead, Eric.
Okay, I got just 2 questions, not a lot. Moving it from what are we at, 95 to 90? How many students would that actually add to it, though? Because I can't imagine it's going to be a huge number on that one.
18.
18?
18 of all students who we have currently who've ever taken the COGNAT all the way through 8th grade.
Okay. And then for the identification of those students, we have a lot of students who are not native English speakers who could score poorer on the test because that's not their, it's given in their not non-native language on that. So how is that addressed to kind of make sure that those students who are gifted are still being identified and getting the services they need?
So one of the reasons the COGAT test is approved is because it's, even though verbal is a part of the test, it's actually a nonverbal test. Like, it has no reading in it. And it actually is administered, or it could be administered in Spanish. So we only have options for Spanish and English, but all the directions and all of the tests actually can be administered in Spanish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Was that 2? Was that 2?
That was 2.
I had a question about professional development. Part of the guide says that the Osborne School District is committed to providing ongoing professional development to ensure teachers, administrators, and support staff are equipped to meet the academic and social emotional needs of gifted learners. Where have we seen that this year? Have we seen any kind of professional development when it comes to gifted education?
I think we're part of the work we're doing with Kagan is really helping us think strategically about the kinds of students, all the different kinds of learners that we're working with. And we've tried hard to point out how Kagan supports our EL learners and our special education, our students with IEPs who, think differently. And I think we have made some explicit connections to also reaching our high flying gifted students using those cake and structures. And so that would be one example where we, we're explicitly making that connections for all of our students. Yeah.
When I was speaking earlier about that specific school, a lot of that data that is on the gifted learner plan, we have profiles for every single student in our dashboards, our data dashboards that have all of that information, not necessarily the goals specific to the student, but that data piece. And so when we were reviewing our STAR data, actually it was on the January 5th, the staff release day, teachers were able to really go in and look not only at just those overall scores and know like where those students are scoring with their grade equivalents, but like exactly what they need instructionally so that way they could plan for what those kids need in small groups. And that's where you would have a lot of that cluster grouping because those students would come together likely in their group.
Can you talk a little bit about our funding for the COGAT? Where does that come from?
When I first started, we did get a tiny pot of money to pay for COGAT, but since COVID, the state has been able to fund free licenses for COVID. So we've been able, I think for the last 6 years then, we've been able to get free licenses for COGAT.
Thank you. And then how does documentation of gifted status travel with students throughout their time in Osborne to high school?
So we tag our students, we're required to tag our students in Synergy. We're also able to tag them in our EduClimber, which is another one of our data systems. So that, as Melissa pointed out, as teachers are digging into data, kind of those tags pop up. We do communicate with Phoenix Union around our 8th graders and give them all of that data as well.
I'm the gifted facilitator at my site, and what we have noticed is, and not unique to Osborne because Phoenix Union has a lot of feeder districts, but students are labeled as gifted with no documentation. Zero documentation of where they're gifted in, what area. It could be a parent just checked a box that said my kid was gifted, and now they're labeled as gifted throughout their whole. I just want to be sure that documentation of the COGAT or teacher recommendation or however this student was identified as gifted is being sent with them to high school, because we're lacking in that documentation at the high school level.
Yeah, my lovely administrative assistant puts in all of the data.
Even Phoenix Union only asks for a field with their SSID, their student identification number, and a yes. So we're not even sending them the scores as far as I know, in the uploads that we share in the student data team. And we do provide the profiles for families. And so if you've had a student in Osborne, you'll get the profile. I highly suggest hanging on to that. And if you need it, again, you can always do a records request. We do those really often where we provide them, and often for students in high school.
I have a couple questions. So it looks like this report is required by the state department. Okay. What is the due date that we have to submit our final report?
I would say by the end of the year. However, we're being monitored for Title IV. Yes, sir. Where did he go? And I believe they're asking us to upload it by the end of March.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Before the end of March. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And just to reiterate again, the main policy change to our current program is just changing the percentage of students who are eligible. Is that right? Or are there other parts of this?
That would be the main change.
Yeah.
Yes.
I guess where my head is at right now, this is incredible. And I think every student who deserves that categorization should get it and should get the resources that go to it for sure. Ideal world, absolutely. If we've got time, I would perhaps make a motion at some point to table this until we can get our goals set. Because again, I'm really concerned that if we're not getting these performance plans done, and that's not just creating the plan, but then it's executing it, and the time and attention from our administrators and teachers on those gifted students. And that's time and attention that could be focused on our students who are not meeting the proficiency levels, and until maybe we say in terms of our goals that we really want to focus on, we want to really focus on gifted and accelerating that and making that better. But with limited resources, I have a feeling that we're really going to focus a lot on students who are not meeting expectations and getting them up to, or not expectations, but standards, and getting them up to standards. So I'm not comfortable voting on this until we've set our goals and know where we're going in that direction. I'm incredibly nervous about the idea of adding 18 students and the staff, time and resources that it would take to focus on those students and not the ones who we need to be bringing up to core standards.
I think one thing to kind of just jump in there, in terms of the work of doing the gifted learner plan, making sure that those are in place, then yes, we can look at that resource of time that's going to be required. But in terms of teachers, now that they know that a child is identified as gifted, them not having spoken to the needs, I think regardless of a gifted identification, we look at data and every single child to try and provide the best education to them so that they're making not only able to reach proficiency, but also make appropriate growth. And so I can completely hear what you're saying in terms of wanting to make sure resources, but I don't think that there's anything with this plan that's going to make teachers say, now I'm doing this much more that I'm taking away from someone and giving to this other group. Like there's a dedication of our staff to meeting all students where they are, right? So if you're discussing tabling this and wanting it to be for a particular purpose, I guess I would say help me out so that we know what exactly we need to come with next time, so that you would be prepared for moving forward with it. Because if it's around the like which goals are you talking about? Board goals for around
Yeah.
The strategic
I
planning
can speak
goals,
to
is
that.
that?
Yes. So strategic plan goals. So for example, we have specific goals about improving the proficiency of our third grade readers. Then we will need to ask for an administrative plan to direct resources to achieve that goal and to know what that is to achieve what we have set as a vision. And I would want to make sure that we don't set ourselves on a path right now where we are obligating ourselves to, time and resources of our staff to focus on gifted learners that we could otherwise have dedicated or focusing our time and energy on students who are not yet proficient. Does that make sense? It's 18 more students who have specific plans. They're getting, again, I think it has to be some sort of dedicated time and attention. Otherwise, why would we be changing the percentile? If everyone's getting what they need, then we would need to change that percentile. Right. So my thought, I mean, again, this is just an idea. We can have more discussion. We can eventually make a motion on this. But my thought is we should complete our goals, understand what we are going for, align our resources behind the specific board goals. And then if this is within that set of board goals, then absolutely let's go for it. But until that time, I'm not comfortable voting yes to increase. Again, if it's just purely on these plans alone, that's resources that I wouldn't want to dedicate to this until we know what our board level goals are around student achievement.
All right.
Question kind of related to that. Is there any feedback from teachers that I know? I looked at the form. It doesn't seem super long, but I'm sensitive to we ask so much from our teachers, right? It's the same as when I taught high school. There was so many duties. I would love. This is not exactly related to this agenda item, but I would love to find a way as much as possible to take some of those duties off. Lunch duties and recess duties, and make sure teachers have time to exhale, eat lunch, and do everything that they need to do. So, um, is there any feedback from teachers related to the plan? Because I think it sounds like, at least why I understand it, the plans would be primarily filled out by, or at least kind of led by, the classroom teacher, which makes sense. But is there any feedback from teachers of, hey, I'm not, this is albeit small, this is something that I just don't want to add on my plate? Or is this something that's like, hey, I'm already kind of doing this. It's nice to have it written down and tracked, and this makes sense.
Can I jump in there?
Please.
Because I don't think it should be the classroom teacher that writes this plan.
Okay.
If we have 2 teachers in the entire district who have a gifted endorsement and have actual training in this subject, I don't want every teacher to write this because they don't have the knowledge of how to write this. They don't have the knowledge of the gifted domains and how those manifest. We need to have somebody who has a background in working with gifted children, endorsement or not, but we need to have an expert who can facilitate this, and so we can have continuity throughout our 6 schools on how our gifted students are serviced. Because by law, we have to service them. Like that, there's no. We have to service our gifted students. It is law. We're not getting around that. But I don't think teachers need to be writing this. This is something that if I'm a teacher, I get this on my desk and now I know how to teach Joe. This is not something that I think teachers should be creating. This is a district office issue. This is not a classroom teacher issue.
Got it.
I have a question about the plan. Are
Go
you all
ahead.
done?
I think you're getting there. Go ahead.
The plan is 2026 to 2031. So is that 2026 2027 school year when it would begin, or is it beginning right away?
I think it would be for next school year.
Okay, so then we have time. We have the semester to figure out who's going to be in charge, who's going if the stipend is going to be available, so that way that person can then receive extra training or whatever it is that it's going to be happening, and to look at the budget as well, right? So we have the next few months to look at all of that information before it truly gets fully implemented.
And when you're implementing gifted education and gifted strategies, you can do that with no money. It's just
Yes.
good teaching practice. So I'm not concerned about a budget because teachers have the skills to be able to do it. I'm concerned about the professional development that may or may not be happening where our teachers don't know how to teach a gifted student or even know what does it mean my student is gifted and nonverbal. I
But
don't
I-
know if a lot of teachers know that.
But I do think we need a budget to provide professional development opportunities.
Can we not do it on a Wednesday PD? Like what money do we need for that? Like where
I mean, I don't believe that we have all districts, or specific people ready to give those presentations, or do we have specific folks ready to train others?
I think we would need to build some capacity, and to your point, we would want it to be systematic. So that would take some coordination, not necessarily extra money, but coordination and capacity.
I can also say, just in terms of budgeting, our time we also budget. So in terms of those Wednesdays, what's the opportunity cost of that Wednesday afternoon focused on this specific program? We could be using it towards other student achievement focused areas as well, which is important. And if it's going to take a lot of those Wednesday afternoons to meet this new standard, then an issue that we need to address.
Do we have any more discussion or questions around this? All right. Do we have a motion to approve this action item? Or do we have a motion for this action item?
I move to table.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. So the motion is to table this action item. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. So it looks like we have majority, so the motion carries. So it will be tabled until next month.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you so much. All right, moving on to the to our board development. So the last chapter of this book was only a few pages, so I do hope we all got to read it.
Yeah.
So any comments or anything regarding the last few pages of this book, or in general of the book?
I highlighted and post-it noted and underlined the school boards need to communicate the reality of the district. Let me read it. The school board has to be intentional about communicating the school system's results back to the communities. Since the school board represents the visions and the values of community, it serves as an agent of the community and thus has an obligation to update the community periodically. I love this quote because it is our duty to let our community know how our students are doing. And so the move really connecting that to our student outcomes focused results and talking about student data a lot more, I think it's going to align really well here. And then I'll also add that I love the way our district puts together our governing board packets. I think we're super transparent in the data that we provide to our community. It far exceeds a lot of other districts and what they provide to their community. So I think this is a really good way and talking more about student data and how our students are doing, and then communicating that to our community. I think it's really important. So I appreciated reading that.
All right, any other comments?
Yeah, I'll say that, for the community members who aren't following along, this has been a really outstanding book, that the thesis being that the core job of a school board is student outcomes. And the chapter, at least what I got from the chapter, was around going from the theoretical to the practical and how do we do that. And the two jobs of a board are set goals, academic achievement goals that are, SMART goals, and then setting the guardrails for the district and letting our professionals and experts tell us how best to achieve those. So I'm just really fired up and ready to go on this stuff, especially on the implementation side of this type of work, because I do think it's really critical. And they mentioned too, just board agendas, spending a recommendation of spending 50% of our time on the goals that we set around student achievement, and then the work that we're doing to achieve them. And this has been a great meeting. We've had a lot of phenomenal information, but it wasn't until this last presentation that we really talked at all about student achievement or outcomes that way. It's all been adult inputs or more the administrative side of things. So I look forward to, meetings where we can really have those goals, focus on the work that we're doing to achieve those, and then making sure that our teachers and administrators have the resources, that the budget aligns with those goals, that we're really achieving what we need to for our students in the district.
Really, I agree with that. Really enjoyed the book. Just a short part at the end, but one of my takeaways is that, and he talks about a Saturday morning meeting. I think he called it School Board School, and how he had a packed house in there Saturday morning at 9 a.m. I was like, wow, I would love. And he said because of how novel it was, and really talked about what it is to be a school board member and what it takes and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that was really, really neat, and just kind of made me think we should be trying to think outside the box, doing something where we can pack the house with community members, getting them information. Some of the most active times where the community engages with us as a district, as us as a school board, is when we have a vacancy. I remember, we've seen just droves of people just kind of spike in interest, and I've thought about that a lot when I read this chapter, because you know how do we kind of capture that and bring people in and use that energy also to inform our strategic plan.
One thing, Member Blink, you mentioned about that 50% number, and I've looked at that, and as we've gone through this whole book study, I've really thought about that number and time at board meetings and doing that audit, that analysis of your board meetings. And one of the recommendations that was put in there that was a thinker for me, because I don't know that I necessarily agree with it. And the board has had conversations, not this iteration of the board, but prior boards, is around putting more into consent. Because although a lot of time was spent on business, the business of the district and the community that's watching it, this is their only opportunity to see that. And so to me, as long as that putting more into consent doesn't lead to lack of transparency, I think it's really important that we have the conversations about how we're spending dollars, and robust conversation along with that. even if it winds up pushing that percentage not to 50%, if we're, like, oh, this was a 25%, but we had really great discussion in depth around district business. So you're not insinuating it at all, but from the book, when I was reading that about like pushing more to consent, I remember, you know, 2 or 3 boards ago when I first came into this position, really having that debate about what goes on to consent agenda. And I think we've actually pushed more onto consent now than it was when I first took this job. So that's just going to be one of those, we're doing more to put those ideas, those topics of student outcomes in these meetings and making those adjustments through this study. So I think that's fantastic. But I do think that when we think about the creation of the board agenda, that we make sure that we don't lose the transparency that we've had with the community.
Yeah. I'll just say to that, I think we could, just looking at the presentation outlay for today's meeting, if we kept all the action items on the board that we discussed today, I think there's still time that we could rethink to focus more on student outcomes that will get us closer to that 50%, not necessarily hitting it perfectly, but yeah. I don't think we need to move more items to consent to achieve that.
Yeah.
I thought I'm really excited again, like everyone else has said, kind of focusing on those outcomes and moving to those goals. But I thought on this chapter, I don't know, I struggled a little bit on the reporting part, reporting out to the public. Not that I don't want to do it, but we might need to think outside the box, as board member Herman was saying, because I don't see really a whole lot of public here that are not here because they have to for their job. And so how do we get that message out to the public? And I know we send the Osborne Reporter out, but to try to find some ways to really let the community know what we're doing, I think that's going to be a challenge because we can try to make these exciting board meetings, but people still are not going to show up that much. And sometimes data and facts are not exciting, but they're important. And so I'd be interested if we had any ideas of how to connect with the community more, because I think it is really important to communicate with them, but they're not thinking it's a great thing to do to show up on a Tuesday night to the board meeting here. Obviously, once their kid's presentation is done, honestly. And so that's, I think, a struggle we can have to how do we really get that communication to them.
And I think with the community meetings, it's separate from our board meetings. The board meetings, we're going to be doing all the action items and all those things. And while I would love to have community members here, it's it would be separate. So I know that I spoke about this, I think, in May of last year after attending NASBA, having attended a session where it recommended that school board members they either set up, after school or, are available for any parent questions, or available even maybe at lunchtime for teachers if they have any questions or concerns. The other thing that I've taken from the book is just the guardrails. Like, I really do think we've talked a lot about the student outcomes, but we haven't really talked about what our guardrails are. And so as school board members, it's not my job to tell a teacher how to be a teacher. It's not my job to tell a principal how to, coach his or her teachers. As a board member, we are the boss of one person, which is Dr. Robert. And he's the boss of other people, right? And so just ensuring, and I think that school board school is really to teach the community of what a school board that what their duties are. And so I would be more than happy if anybody on this board would like to collaborate. Maybe we can come up with a Saturday session. Maybe we can get donation for food. Food usually brings folks. I know it always brought me when I was in college. But just something where we can have where we're connecting with the community, and of course following the law, open meeting law. It would only have to be two of us working together, but why not? Maybe we can do two do it at some point in, like, let's say 2 months, and then two do it in more. But I really do think that knowing how transparent we are to the community, are everything that as board members we receive to be ready for this board meeting is online, and anybody in our community can read all of that information. And not every school board does that. And so I think that that is wonderful how transparent we are. And I would love to collaborate with you all to host some of these community meetings so that way. And it is the perfect timing as we're currently working on strategic planning to adopt by the end of the school year. All right, and with that said, we do have
It's just if you're ready to move on from the board development, we just did include some conferences that are coming up in the upcoming months, just for any board members to just be aware of. If you are interested in attending any of those conferences, just let Lisa know, and we can number one for scheduling the one that's in Arizona. But if we have interest from members in attending any of the other conferences, we need to put it on the agenda so that any travel would be approved ahead of time too. So I just wanted to make you aware of some conferences that are coming up in the upcoming months, and if any members express interest, then we can agendize them.
Yes, and I would say that being the only board member that usually goes to conferences, there's a lot of learning experience and connecting with school board members from around the country to really learn from each other. So, all right, with that, future agenda items, board member Blink.
Yeah, I think I would love to see, just consistent with the conversation we've had today, scheduling a work session. If it's not our next work session, the one after that, to start talking about our goals more explicitly. I would love to hear from the district. I know we have initiatives happening in each of our schools. We have learning and development goals that we've seen, but getting recommendations from the district in terms of what should our SMART goals be, and then for the board members to come to the table as well with our ideas for SMART goals and start to really hash those out. I would love, yeah. So probably more of a work session type topic, but very eager to start that work.
All right, thank you, board member Thompson. Thank you, board member Hermes.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Clerk Ford.
Nothing. Thank you, Madam President.
And for me, I would love maybe a work study around student recruitment strategies. So I was looking at our enrollment number, and I would really like for us to start thinking of ideas of how we can stabilize or increase that number for next school year. All right. Well, with that, we will adjourn this meeting at 8:23 p.m. Thank you, everyone.